You spend most of your life believing that family will always be there. You tell yourself that no matter what happens, blood ties will hold strong. But then one day, you wake up and life has changed. The kids have grown, their own lives pulling them in different directions. Friends fade away, one by one, as time takes its toll. And suddenly, the world that once felt full and familiar begins to feel quieter, emptier. This is the moment when reality settles in. After 60, you start to see life differently, not in the way you imagined when you were younger, but in a way that forces you to question everything you thought you knew about support, love, and reliability. You realize that while family is important, they are not always the dependable rock you assumed they'd be. Not because they don't care, but because life moves on, for them and for you. And if you're not careful, you might find yourself depending on people who, despite their best intentions, cannot always be there when you need them most. So, what then? If not family, then who? If not the people you raised, the siblings you shared childhood with, or the relatives you once relied on? Where does true support come from when you cross the threshold of 60? It comes from 5 pillars. 5 things that stand steady when everything else shifts. 5 truths that hold you up when life, people, and even your own body start to fail you. These pillars don't rely on anyone else. They don't ask for permission. They don't change based on circumstances. They are yours and yours alone. And if you build your life on them, you will never feel abandoned, no matter how much the world changes around you. The first pillar, and perhaps the most overlooked one, is self-sufficiency. Not in the way people often think of it, not just financial independence or the ability to take care of yourself physically, but a deeper, internal kind of self-sufficiency. The kind that makes you wake up in the morning and know that no matter what, you will be okay because you've built yourself to be okay. Too many people reach old age and realize they never truly learned how to be alone. They spent decades wrapped up in their roles, parent, spouse, sibling, friend, without ever strengthening the one relationship that would last the longest, the one with themselves. And then when the house empties, when routines change, when people stop needing them in the way they once did, they feel lost, as if they've been left behind by the very life they dedicated themselves to. But the truth is, you are never truly alone if you know how to stand on your own. You must become your own anchor. Learn to enjoy your own company. Find peace in your solitude instead of fearing it. Fill your days with things that bring you joy, even if no one else is there to witness them. A walk in the park, a book you've been meaning to read, a hobby you abandoned years ago. These are not just small distractions. They are the foundation of self-sufficiency, and without them, you will always feel like something or someone is missing. Most people don't prepare for this. They think of aging as a waiting game, as if the years will take care of themselves. They don't see that the most crucial work isn't in how much money they save or how many family members promise to visit. It's in how well they train themselves to be okay with their own company. Because no matter how much love surrounds you, there will be moments when it's just you. And in those moments, the only thing that will matter is whether or not you know how to be happy on your own. This is why the strongest support system isn't found in others. It's found in what you create within yourself. And that is the first lesson, the first pillar, the first truth you must embrace once you turn 60. The second pillar of support. After 60 is health. Your own, not someone else's responsibility for it. When you are younger, you take your body for granted. You push through fatigue, ignore the aches, and tell yourself that rest is for later. You eat what you want, sit for you too long, sleep too little. And for a while it seems fine. The body forgives. It carries you forward, even when you don't treat it well. But then the years pass, and suddenly, the same body that carried you without complaint starts speaking in ways you can't ignore. The knees ache when you stand up, the back stiffens. When you wake up, the energy you once had slips away little by little. And it is in this moment that many people realize the harsh truth. They spent decades prioritizing everything else but their own health, and now they are paying the price. Your body is not just a machine that takes orders, it is your lifelong home. And if you neglect it, no amount of money, no amount of family support, no amount of love will be able to replace what you've lost. This is why the second pillar of support is built on one simple realization. After 60, your health is your responsibility and no one else's. No one will remind you to drink more water, to move your body, to eat foods that nourish instead of harm. No one will force you to go for a walk, to stretch, to rest when needed. And even if you have people who care about you, they cannot live inside your body and make choices for you. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume that their children, their spouse, their doctors will always be there to help. But the reality is, after a certain age, your health is no longer a priority to anyone except yourself. Not because people don't care, but because everyone has their own life to manage, and so, if you do not become your own advocate, no one else will. This means discipline, choosing movement over convenience, water over sugar, rest over burnout. It means listening to your body when it whispers so you don't have to suffer when it starts to scream. It means making choices today that your future self will thank you for rather than regret. Because here's the truth. Once your health is gone, everything else follows. You can have all the money in the world, all the love of your family, all the freedom of retirement, but if your body is not well, none of it will matter. People assume aging is about numbers, about years stacking on top of each other. But real aging, the kind that steals your independence and makes you feel helpless, comes from neglecting the very vessel that carries you. And this is the painful part. Many only realize this when it's too late. They see their peers struggling, confined to hospital beds, unable to do the simplest things without help. They see what happens when health is taken for granted. And by the time they decide to change, time has already taken its toll. But if you are reading this, if you are still able, you have a choice. You can either let time control you, or you can take control while you still can. Because once you cross 60, your health is no longer just about feeling good, it's about survival. It's about making sure you can still get out of bed without help, still walk without pain, still live with dignity rather than dependence. It's about ensuring that the years ahead are not just years, but years lived well. So, while others rely on family, hoping their loved ones will take care of them, you must take the harder but truer path, relying on yourself, on the body that has carried you this far. Because in the end, no one can do this for you. Only you can make the choice to be strong for yourself. This is the second pillar of real support after 60, and without it, nothing else will stand. The third pillar of support after 60 is financial independence. Not wealth, not luxury, just enough stability to ensure that you never have to beg, never have to rely on someone else's kindness, and never have to feel like a burden. Money is a complicated thing. When you're younger, you work for it, you spend it, you chase it. It feels endless, always replenishing with the next paycheck, the next opportunity. You assume it will always be there in some form, that the years ahead will somehow sort themselves out. But then you step into your 60s, and the game changes. Retirement isn't a distant idea anymore. It's here. Your ability to work the way you once did starts to fade. And suddenly, every financial decision carries more weight because you now have more past than future, and there are no do-overs. This is when people make one of two choices. Some accept reality and adjust their lifestyle to ensure they never outlive their money. Others, blinded by old habits, continue spending as if nothing has changed, assuming that their children, the government, or sheer luck will take care of them when the time comes. But relying on others for financial stability is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. Not because people don't care, but because life is unpredictable. Children grow up and have families of their own. They have mortgages, bills, their own financial struggles. No matter how much they love you, they cannot always afford to support you the way you might hope. And even if they can, do you really want to spend your later years waiting for their help, feeling like a dependent rather than an individual in control of your own life? This is where financial independence becomes not just a choice but a necessity. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself at this stage of life is freedom. The freedom to make your own decisions, to live on your own terms, and to never feel like a burden. It doesn't mean you need millions. It means you need enough. Enough to cover your needs without fear. Enough to handle medical expenses because those will come. Enough to maintain a life where you can still enjoy the little things without guilt or hesitation. This is why, if you are still in a position to earn, to save, to invest wisely, do it. Not because you want more, but because you want peace of mind. And if you're already retired, then make it your mission to live within your means, to adjust where necessary, to ensure that you never reach a point where you have to rely on someone else for your survival. Because nothing erodes dignity faster than financial dependence. It changes the way people see you, the way they treat you. It shifts the balance of relationships, making love feel like obligation and care feel like charity. And that is not how you want to spend the years you have left. The harsh truth is, no one values your security as much as you do. The world is full of stories of parents who gave everything to their children, only to be left struggling in their old age. Of people who assumed their pension, their savings, their investments would be enough, until they weren't. Of individuals who once had financial stability, only to lose it to poor planning, bad decisions, or unexpected crises. But here's the good news. No matter where you are right now, there are always steps you can take to protect yourself. Downsizing instead of holding on to a house too expensive to maintain. Cutting unnecessary expenses instead of draining your savings on things that no longer serve you. Learning to say no when family members expect financial support you cannot afford to give. Because at this stage of life, every financial decision is about one thing: securing your independence. And that independence is worth more than anything money can buy. So while others may trust that their children or government pensions will take care of them, you must think differently. You must make decisions today that will protect your tomorrow. Because after 60, the only person who will always have your best financial interests at heart is you. This is the third pillar of support. Without it, even the strongest foundation will crumble. The fourth pillar of support after 60 is your social circle. Not just friends, but the people you choose to keep close. The ones who add meaning to your days. The ones who remind you that life is still full of warmth, laughter, and connection. Loneliness is a silent killer, and yet so many people walk straight into it without realizing. They spend decades building a life around their family, their work, their responsibilities, never stopping to nurture friendships that exist outside of those roles. And then, when retirement comes, when the children leave, when the world becomes quieter, they look around and find themselves alone. This is one of the hardest lessons of aging. Love does not always mean presence. Your children may love you, but they have their own lives to live. Your family may care, but they cannot always be there. And if you have built your world around people who are no longer present, you will find yourself feeling abandoned. Not because they don't care, but because they are simply living the way you once did. This is why you must build a social circle that exists outside of your family. You need friends, real ones, people who understand you, who share your interests, who bring companionship without obligation, people you can laugh with, talk to, rely on when life feels heavy. And if you don't have them, you must go find them. Because friendships in old age are not a luxury, they are a lifeline. This is where many go wrong. They assume that making friends is something that happens naturally when you're young, but as you get older, it requires effort. You must be willing to put yourself out there, to join a class, to strike up conversations, to reconnect with old acquaintances. You must be open to new people, new experiences, new ways of finding connection. Because without a social circle, old age becomes a waiting game. You wait for phone calls that don't come, for visits that are always next weekend, for people who care but are too busy to show it as often as you need. And the longer you wait, the more you retreat into yourself, the harder it becomes to reach out. But the truth is, it's never too late to build your own community. A group of friends who check in, who meet for coffee, who share in the everyday joys of life. A support system made up of people who are walking the same road as you, who understand the value of simple companionship. Because no matter how independent you are, no matter how much you value your solitude, life is meant to be shared. And after 60, the difference between a fulfilling life and a lonely one often comes down to whether or not you have people to share it with. And that brings us to the fifth and final pillar, the one that holds everything else together, a sense of purpose. If you wake up every day with nothing to look forward to, no reason to move, no sense of meaning, life starts to feel empty, no matter how much you have. This is what happens to so many people after retirement. They spend years looking forward to the day they no longer have to work, only to find themselves lost once it arrives. The days feel longer, the routine disappears, and without purpose, life starts to feel like something they are just passing through, rather than something they are actively living. Purpose is what keeps you engaged. It's what keeps your mind sharp, your body active, your spirit alive. It doesn't have to be something grand. It doesn't mean you need to start a business, write a book, or travel the world. It simply means having something that gives your days meaning. Maybe it's a hobby you love. Maybe it's volunteering, mentoring, or teaching. Maybe it's tending to a garden, creating art, or helping in your community. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you wake up every morning with something to do, something to care about, something that reminds you that you are still an active participant in life, not just a spectator. Because the people who age well, who remain vibrant even in their later years, are the ones who never stop having a reason to get up in the morning. They don't sit around waiting for others to bring meaning into their lives. They create it for themselves. And when you have purpose, everything else falls into place. Loneliness fades because you are engaged. Health improves because you are active. Financial worries lessen because you are too focused on living to dwell on fear. This is the final truth of life after 60. The only real support comes from what you build for yourself. Not from family, not from children, not from promises of care that may or may not come. If you want to live well in old age, you must rely on these 5 pillars. Self-sufficiency, so you are never afraid of being alone. Health, so your body does not become a prison. Financial independence, so you never feel like a burden. A social circle, so you never have to face life's hardships alone. Purpose, so you always have a reason to wake up with hope, and so the choice is yours. You can wait for visits that may never come, for phone calls that grow less frequent, for someone else to remind you that you matter. Or you can step forward and build a life that doesn't depend on waiting. Because the truth is, no one can give you the life you truly want. You must create it for yourself. When you stand on these 5 pillars, you are not just surviving old age, you are living it fully. You are embracing your independence, protecting your dignity, and ensuring that no matter who comes and goes, you will always have a life that is rich and meaningful. You won't sit by the window, watching the world pass you by. You will still be a part of it, still moving, still growing, still engaged. Life doesn't end at 60, 70, or even 80. It only ends when you stop investing in it. So take care of your body, protect your finances, nurture friendships, find purpose, and most of all, learn to be enough for yourself. Because when you do, you will never fear old age again. You will welcome it with strength, with confidence, and with peace. This is the foundation of a strong, independent life after 60. And if you build these pillars, you will never have to rely on anyone else to Make your later years fulfilling, because you will have already given that gift to yourself.